Get some of the losers here at the deadline. And I guess I'll start with this one because there's no question one of the losers at the deadline, you can't help but it's the Yankees. You know, they're a team that was trending towards becoming one of the best teams, or not one of but the best team in the American League, because they already are one of the best. They were on the heels of Houston. You know, I know Houston's had some injuries, but nobody's had more injuries than the Yankees this season. They were right there. And I kept saying they have to make a move at the deadline, adding another big-time starter, because right now their starters cannot go more than 4 or 5 innings. And it's just all about the bullpen. And the bullpen's great. And if they have a lead during that time, if the starters are great for those 4 or 5 innings, well, then they're going to win a ball game. You know, they win yesterday. They hit a grand slam in the first inning. They don't score the rest of the game. They win 4-2, though. Paxton goes 6. The bullpen closes it out. That's the formula. But they needed another big-time starter, whether that was Bumgarner or Stroman or Trevor Bauer, Zach Greinke, which I'll be honest, I don't think Greinke or Bauer really would have done well in New York. I don't think they're quite, you know what I mean? You got guys that are just not made for that market.
Yeah, you don't want them.
And I just don't think Greinke is. And I don't think Bauer is. But there were other guys like Bumgarner, Stroman, some guys that could help you out here. They did not get. So they kind of stayed put. Houston won the deadline. So now Houston is separated themselves. It's Houston in the American League and the Yankees far below again. So that is one disappointment. I think another one for me was the Dodgers. As you guys mentioned, and when we were talking about baseball earlier in the show, that bullpen has holes in it. As talented as they are, and they're still among the elite in the National League, still at the top, they have a very weak bullpen. They did nothing to strengthen it. They didn't make any moves. They were silent. Is that going to hurt them as other teams around them got better? I think they can survive it. I still think they're the team that should be in the World Series. Doesn't mean they will be. But I still think they are the World Series representatives in the National League. But they really, again, they're like the Buffalo Bills here. I mean, they keep going, but they keep losing. And there's some holes on this team, and it's the bullpen. They did not solidify that at all. They didn't strengthen it. That was disappointing. Those are 2 teams for me. I know, Caleb, you've been high on the Twins here. The Twins were that team that were red hot at a big lead in the Central. It's shrinking. That's a team that they might, and I don't know if they made any moves. I don't want to say that.
They added Sergio Romo.
Yeah, they made some
the
little low-key moves here. But that was a team that was looking to make big moves.
Yeah.
Do you think, would you consider that what they did at the deadline put them in the loser bracket?
Well, I think they're kind of in the the same boat as the Red Sox. I think they're both, you could say, losers because they didn't get what they actually, what all they needed at the deadline. But at the same time, they're still either, well, with the Red Sox, you have them in the wild card race. And with the Twins, you're still on top of your division. And so you don't want to take a huge amount of risk because you're already winning games. And who knows, you trade away a couple players, who knows what that does to the culture of your team, what that does to your locker room, because we've seen, if you trade away certain players and you gain people back, it can destroy the culture in your locker room, which ultimately can affect the way you play on the field. We've seen that with the Red Sox several years ago. But I think the Twins and the Red Sox, they both didn't get what they needed, which is more bullpen help. I would like to see the Twins try to go out and get a big-time starter, a guy like a Stroman or Bumgarner. But I know the asking price for those guys was pretty high, especially Bumgarner. But I don't want to call them technically losers, but because they're winning, so.
But Nelson Cruz is going 4 for 5 with like 2 home runs every
right.
night.
I mean, they're winning, but at the same time, they didn't get what they needed as far as the postseason goes. Because regular season is different than the postseason. I think the Twins will still make the playoffs. I think the Red Sox will still make the playoffs. But when they get there, I just don't think they'll get what they need. They didn't get what they needed at the deadline, as Josh is.
He loves that paper, man.
I used to read the paper all the time.
The business section of I'm just kidding. But yeah, I don't think they got what they needed. I mean, they got Sergio Romo, the Twins did, and that's a good pickup, but that's not all they needed. But again, these guys have surprised us all year, and who's to say they can't surprise us come postseason and change a little bit of the way that the postseason is played. Maybe you extend your starters out, 7, 8 innings, and really depend on your lineup to produce when you get to the postseason, because they can definitely hit the ball. There's no doubt about that. They can definitely hit the ball. But I wouldn't technically call them losers. I would just call them, well, yeah, I guess you could call them losers.
There's nothing in between.
Yeah.
You're either a winner or you're a loser.
Yeah, maybe it's just a wait-and-see loser.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because they're good, but they needed help, bullpen help especially, and so did the Red Sox. But they're winning at the same time, and they're going to make the playoffs, I believe, unless they just fall apart. But maybe when they get to the postseason, things change because of the bullpen and the way they play. So we'll see. But I would say technically, as of right now, if we're asking just about the trade deadline, yeah, they were losers.
And then, Caleb's touched a little bit on it, Josh, but the Red Sox, no doubt they're a loser here. They didn't really bring in anybody that will help their bullpen issues. They have offense. Obviously, the Red Sox lead baseball in runs per game. They're scoring 6 runs a game, just like everybody would think. But they can't pitch. Are the Red Sox going to regret not making a move, bringing in a bullpen arm? Is this a team that possibly missed the playoffs? Because right now, you look at the wild card, they're 4 games out of a wild card spot. As good as that offense is, do you think not fixing the bullpen issue, do you think that's going to cost the Red Sox here?
It could. It very well could. And I look at the Red Sox as like, hum. They've kind of been in stagnant mode all year, and that's the way their trade deadline was. It was stagnant, didn't do anything to make it better. I think their bullpen ERA is above 4.5. But I do look at teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox who really didn't make moves. Looking at the Astros and when the Astros made that deal for Greinke, of course it was at last minute, but maybe they already knew that something was going to happen. If you're going to throw all your assets in for this year, you got to be sure that you can compete with somebody else. If they would have added bullpen help, would that have got them past the Astros? I'm not sure. In a case like the Dodgers, other teams are catching them. The Nats and the Braves especially added pieces to get better and catch up to the Dodgers. And so I really think the Dodgers, to me, is the big disappointment. And kind of look at Milwaukee. They got Ray Black, but they traded Roy Aguilar. I don't think Milwaukee did that great. And we look at the Cubs. They
did okay.
They did okay. They were active enough where I don't think there was a disaster.
I just think they should have probably added another arm instead of another outfielder, because you got Zobrist coming back, and Tony Kemp is a nice fielder. Is an atrocious bat, but
but I think that's the thing. You late in games, you get a defense substitution. You get a guy that can steal bases as well.
Especially with Joe Madden being the manager. He's big on defensive.
So I could see that being a okay move, but I would attend instead of going for Castellanos. I would have probably try to get some relief help there, but it is what it is. I don't think they gave up a whole lot, but. To me, it's the Dodgers are the big loser. They could have shored up that bullpen.
like Houston did.
Right,
they could have really put themselves
They could have made that. They could have cleared the space and made them that next level.
Yep.
We could have been looking at, the Major League Baseball like we're looking at Clemson and Alabama. Clemson and Alabama, everybody else. Well, now it's Houston and everybody else, and it could have been Houston, L.A. and everybody else, but L.A. didn't do it.
And I just think with the Red Sox, this is, again, I really do feel like they didn't do anything that drastically in the offseason and here in this trade deadline because, again, of the salary cap, the luxury tax. And they are very close to it. So they have to be careful what they do before they get penalties. And I think they were banking on some of these guys that just had career years last year. I mean, they have the offense. But pitching was always the question mark, even last year. I just never really felt like the pitching was that great, but yet they were just good enough last year. And that's just the way it was last year. They were just good enough all last year where it hit it, and they pitched very well in the postseason. I'll say that. But
they had guys like Kelly, and then once you get the ninth inning, you're done. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's certainly one of those things where I think the Red Sox are still a playoff. I don't want to say they're out of it because I think they can get hot here. There's still plenty of time for them to get a wild card spot, but it's a possibility. I'm starting to realize that it's a legitimate possibility that they can be out of the playoffs.
I mean, I wonder if you guys
they got to jump several teams.
Feel the same way I do. I'm waiting for the Rays to fall apart and the Red Sox to surge.
But
I kind of tend to agree.
That's what you expect, right?
You know what I mean?
I'm not sure if I'm really looking for the Red Sox to surge, so to speak, but I do look for the Rays to falter.
They had an opportunity, the Red Sox, last week before to take on the Rays, and the Rays took it to them.
Blew them out,
and that got some separate because the Red Sox actually jumped the Rays in the wild card.
The Rays have won 4 games in a row.
Is it right there?
Lost,
look at that.
Lost 4.
Look at that.
Get that man a
Good
paper.
old paper.
I mean, this man's highlighted things right here in the notes right there. I like it. He came prepared today. Actually, you brought the paper.
my paper.
Yeah, you
Paper.
brought
I
it.
stole
You know what?
it.
He stole it, and he's making himself do better. You gotta do better.
Right, maybe that's why his name gets mentioned at the top
Yeah,
of the show.
he's reading that. Yeah. Yeah, I always throw your name in there. Still salty about it. Still
salty. I'm going to be salty about that until it's changed.
I tend to agree with him.
Thank
I'll
you.
throw your name in there.
All right.
Throw your name in there.
Better.
We might have to wait 2 months. We just got him to put our names in there.
But just like add like at the very end. And Caleb Horton.
That
Just
guy.
like very quickly.
Yeah, just really quick.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
We see what we do. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back, and we'll take a look at some fantasy football. Quarterback. It's about that time. Leagues are renewing left and right. Our league that me and Caleb been in for years renewed. We might have a league. We were talking about it today. We might do a league or some sort right here. Why not?
Got to get the people to sign up.
Get to join the Saturday Sports Report.
That's it.
I'm gonna win because I'm a winner.
With Matt Castillo, Josh Green, and Caleb Horton.
I just
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
If you ain't first, you're last.
That's right.
Great Ricky Bobby. So fantasy football coming up here. Quarterback positions. We'll talk about that here on the Saturday Sports Report.